Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So I finally have a bit of a time to actually have a look at this RS5 what was delivered last year. So unfortunately the car wasn't in schedule, so it was sitting here for a while, and this is the situation, the current situation with the vehicle. So the battery is completely dead. We have an engine light flashing along with the EPC, and the diagnostic is actually telling us we have a misfire on one side of the cylinder head. So from cylinder 5 to 8 there's a misfire. So we definitely have to check the timing. So we're going to use the VCDs as usual to check the timing, and straight away we can tell the bank to intake camshaft is 47 degrees out. All of them should be plus minus 3 degrees, closest to the nil of course. And yeah, we have a EPC light, and the flashing engine light is telling us there's a misfire. So I'm going to try to rev the engine a bit to actually check if the timing will move or adjust somehow, but it didn't move absolutely nothing. Yeah, at this point it might be stuck camshaft adjuster or the solenoid which is controlling the camshaft adjuster. Let's have a look at the engine, how it's actually running. So this is the solenoid which is actually controlling the camshaft adjuster. There's 4 of them, 2 on each cylinder head, and that's the camshaft position sensor which is telling us the camshaft is out of timing. So this is what I found in the boot, and probably you know what it is. This is absolutely waste of money, unfortunately. So let's take the car in and do some inspections on the ramp. Okay then, so we have an issue on bank number 2, which is this side. So that's where there's all the misfire. We also have a problem with the timing on the intake camshaft, and this is the solenoid which is actually controlling the camshaft adjuster. So we will try to replace that one first, easy access, and we have to check compressions on bank number 1 and on bank number 2 as well, to see if actually the engine have correct compressions, and we will go from there. So after I find out how much is the solenoid for the camshaft adjuster, I don't want to spend the customer's money for nothing, so I'm gonna do the compression test first. So situation update. So the left side is fine, on the right side is not good. We have 4.5 and 5 bars. So we definitely have an issue on bank number 2, what even the diagnostic says. So next step, I definitely want to take out the rocker, and we will see what's going on underneath. The timing is actually out mechanically. So there's our problem, as you can see. So this camshaft is actually almost as it should be when it comes to timing. And look at the exhaust one. As the diagnostic was doing the readings, exactly about 40 degrees. There's difference between them. So I'm suspecting, yeah, at this point the camshaft adjuster will be not operating, or it will be probably damaged. So yes, again, we will have to remove the engine, and we will do the full timing chain. We will have to take the intake off, see what's going on with the carbon, and yeah, next step is drop the engine on the floor. So first thing, I'm just going to put the rocker cover back on so nothing fell into the engine, and then we're going to start from the top. Disconnecting the ECU, all the ground cables which is back there, along with the big fuse plate. Afterwards we're gonna lift the car up. We have to drain all the oil out, coolant, disconnect the air conditioning, and get ready to remove the bumper. So once I lift the car up, I can tell straight away this is an RS5. The under tray cover is held down by million bolts, and obviously it's more complicated cover than the S5 or the S4s. We have few air ducts for the brakes, extra cooling for the engine, gearbox and the differentials. So also we have to remove all the heat shields along with the support for the subframe. Afterwards we're gonna drain the oil and the coolant. Meanwhile the oil is drained out. I'm just gonna start removing the bumper slowly. Once the bumper is out of the way, I can start working on the loom from the front. I have to remove all the air duct covers for the coolers. The jet wash for the headlights gotta come off. And the biggest issue and struggle I had was actually the oil cooler himself. The cooler wasn't probably off for a couple of years and I wasn't able to remove the pipe where they connected directly to the oil cooler. So I have to actually hang it first, which takes me a bit of a time because there was everything in the way. And afterwards I had to disconnect the oil cooler from the engine, which was a bit of a pain again. And the slump panel is off, which gives us more space to actually continue disconnecting the engine loom, which is going behind the coolant radiators for the additional coolant pumps. Once everything is off, along with the lower arms and the dry shafts, we can finally start pulling the engine out of the chassis. And there's our engine finally out of the vehicle. So I don't really understand how they done the exhaust manifold, but we will get to that later. We will continue stripping this thing down. The engine is stripped down, so we can have a look at the timing finally. And as you can see on the beginning, the bunk number 2 inlet camshaft was way out. Even the diagnostic told us it's 40 degrees out, which is too much. So after we strip everything down, we can finally tell, again, we have broken plastic in the engine. I'm actually quite surprised because we don't do too many RS4s, RS5s with this sort of engine because it's not common, so they fail. The car didn't done even too much mileage. As you can see, the engine internally looks clean as well, so from my point of view, the oil changes were done regularly, which is fine. However, the only thing what's confusing at the moment is this inlet camshaft was actually out by 40 degrees and I can't see any markings or anything which is telling us that the timing actually jumped. I can't even think about the option when the engine is spinning like, let's say minimum 1000 RPM, so the cams are spinning half of the speed, it will jump by 1 or 2 tooths. It's just impossible. So I'm still suggesting the camshaft adjuster might be faulty. First thing what we have to do anyways, because we have low compressions on bunk 2, all 4 of them, I will lose this bolt and we have to put the camshaft in place, so the engine is actually timed up with the tools, and we will have to do a vacuum test on the valves. That will be the next step before we do anything, because the last thing what I actually want to do is do the whole job, put the engine back into the car, and it will still have low compression. Next step will be check if the valves are actually not damaged or bent, and we definitely have to have a look at this camshaft adjuster because these units are quite expensive. They're like over £600 each. Okay, so here's all the parts, all stripped down. Oil filter doesn't look that bad. Like I said, I personally think the car was serviced on time. So yeah, I don't see any markings on the cylinder head what's telling us the timing has jumped, and it's definitely not out of timing because of the broken plastic on the guides, because then both of the camshafts will be actually turned some way, and at this point only the inlet one is out of timing. So I loosened the ball already and I put the timing tool on. However, cylinder number 7 is open now, so we have to turn the engine to actually check all 4 of them if the valves are not damaged or slightly bent, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we checked the valves, they're fine from the point of view that they're holding the vacuum, but we still have to do the carbon cleaning afterwards. You can see the stage ram is not the best. So yeah, I order all the things for the timing chains and all the gaskets again and whatever we will need. I still have to check the exhaust manifolds because when the car was actually running there was a bit of an eggy smell coming from the exhaust, so that will be the next step. Check the exhaust. Okay, so exhaust manifold with the Catalytic. I don't personally think this is the best design I ever seen, because soon as the catalytic converter will go, you gotta get the whole exhaust manifold with the downpipe. Actually, that's one part, and these are over 3,000 each, which is absolutely mental. So let's have a look inside now. So I personally think more bad news is coming up. So where's the aftercut lambda? They're not cracked or anything, but definitely from the front of the catalytic converter you can tell the surface is rough and is falling apart. So this is matter of time. Right guys, so we checked the catalytic converters. I personally think one of them need doing, so basically 2 of them need doing. I don't really think we will go for the junior units because it's just way too much money. So again, I will have to contact a company who can get us some kind of aftermarket catalytic converters which are high flow, so we can keep it in the budget. I definitely have to speak with the owner, because at the moment the bill will be over the moon again. So yeah, see what the owner says and then we will give you an update.
1 hour later.
Okay, so Andrew, he was sort of happy, not happy. He was happy that we don't have to do full engine rebuild, because as soon as I find out there's very low compression, you know, you can expect the worst. But luckily it's just the timing chain again. With the catalytic converters, he did told me they were done or replaced for second-hand ones not very long time ago. So he's a bit of fed up at the same time. But you know, I would rather do it now when we have the access to them, because it's just unbelievable that you have to drop the engine to actually do anything with the catalytic converters. So I don't really want to leave them there, because I have no idea how long, especially the bank number 2 will last, because you've seen the stage of them. And then I just can't imagine you got to take the engine out again, which is time consuming and it's going to cost loads of money again. So yeah, we were told he trusts us, thank you very much. And yeah, we will go ahead with the whole job. So we definitely will get 1 camshaft adjuster unit. We will replace all the timing chains. We will do the carbon cleaning on the valves, replace all the gaskets, and sort out the catalytic converters. So yeah, I will make the phone call with TPS now. We will order everything what we need for this engine, and as soon as we have all the bits here, we will put it back together. So I've done the order from TPS, we should have the parts in a couple of days. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna strip the engine fully down from all the timing chains and the brackets. and I'm gonna clean the covers and get everything ready for the fitment again. I don't want to do the carbon cleaning for the valves yet because the walnut is actually flying everywhere, and I don't want to have a walnut if I don't have to in the internals. So afterwards the new timing chain is fitted. We will continue from the top of the engine in the walnut cleaning and clean the whole engine generally. So there's the engine fully stripped down and cleaned up from all the old silicone, and this is our old bits, camshaft adjusters and the gears and all the components. And finally we have a beautiful delivery from TPS with all the genuine parts, new tensioners, new bolts, new chains, new gaskets, ready to be fitted on along with the camshaft adjuster. We can start putting all the stuff back on. So we have to begin with the gear on the right hand side along with the two chains for the middle and the cylinder head, otherwise the chain will not slide onto the gear because there's not enough space. Once the middle part is finished along with the guides and the new old tensioner with the gasket, we can move onto the cylinder head left and right. We are installing the old tensioners onto the cylinder head along with the new gaskets. Once they are installed, we have to tighten all the bolts to the Newton meter spec before we actually put the camshaft adjusters on, otherwise you won't be able to tie the bolts down. To tie the bolts to the Newton meter spec, we are using this digital torque wrench. So we will start with the new brackets along with the bolts, so it's 17 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. For the old tensioner bolts, it's 5 Newton meters and 90 degrees. There are Torx 30s, and then we have to tie down the two gears on the right and the left. So the right hand side bolt is 42 Newton meters and the left hand side is 22 Newton meters. After we are done with the torque spec, we can install the camshaft adjuster units. On the units you have it written down which one is the exhaust and which one is the inlet, so you don't mess up. I don't actually think or didn't find there's a position because obviously the oil inlet has a groove, so the oil will get into the camshaft adjuster when it's in any position. We are also using new bolts for these camshaft adjuster units because they're stretching and they tight quite a lot. I'm not tightening the bolts down yet because I still have to release the pin to actually tension the timing chains fully on all three tensioners. And before we do so, I still have to install the last timing chain for the oil pump and the balance shaft along with the bracket with the new gasket. Again, for these bolts, it's 5 Newton meters and 90 degrees. The mine camshaft bolts have actually 2 Newton meter specs. It's 60, 80 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. Make sure you're using the cap tool to actually hold the camshaft in place, otherwise you might damage your timing tools because they will not handle the pressure. So next up we are ready to install all the timing chain covers back on, but before we actually gonna do so, I still have to clean up the standing oil in the cylinder head and the bottom of the engine block. Otherwise, if the oil will get into the fresh silicone, we might have oil leaks very soon after. The engine, we installed everything in the middle, so the PCV, all the vacuum and all the connectors, and we can install the intake manifold back on. Because the plastic bracket was actually shredded to a million pieces, we have to take the oil sump off as well and clean up everything what's left down there, otherwise it might get stuck in the pickup pipe and cause issues in the future. So once the gearbox is connected with the engine, I'm gonna put the exhaust manifolds back on, and I already installed the starter motor along with the heat shield you can see, and this is the bracket for the engine mount what's going on. The starter motor is completely hidden, and we have these 3 bolts holding the bracket onto the engine block. So let's put the exhaust manifold on now and see how beautifully it's covering the bolts. So as you can see, well, you can't see because the bolts are covered. So I'm thinking right now, if you want to replace the starter motor, how you gonna do it on the car without removing the exhaust manifolds? If some of you guys have done it, leave me a comment in below, I wanna know. Right guys, so this is the progress with the RS5 engine, and yeah, everything is put back together, and I personally think it's ready to go back into the vehicle. It was definitely fun to work on a 4.2 FSI engine from the RS5 because it's something different what we used to do with the S4 supercharged V6 engines. It is a very similar concept, Audi, yeah, but it is slightly different when it comes to the cooling system, and few components are connected different way and done different way, like the exhaust manifold with the downpipe is actually one part with the catalytic converter. I was in a contact with Adrian, the owner of the vehicle, the whole time while we were working on it, and he is a bit of a fed up with this particular RS5 because so far it was only issues for him. On the beginning issue with the gearbox, he told me he replaced, or somebody replaced some sensors inside the gearbox which cost him a couple of £1,000. And shortly afterwards one of the catalytic converter failed, so they have to drop the engine down again and actually replace them for a second-hand ones. But you've seen the stage Annelies on the bank too, he wasn't really happy how the catalytic converter looks like, so we contacted him and he wants to get them done. So we put the aftermarket catalytic converters, high flow ones, further back on the exhaust. After the engine will be, we're going to start it, we have to go for MOT because there's no MOT, so I'll give you an update on the emissions as well. And yeah, it's a RS5 high performance vehicle, so anything go wrong 80% of the time the engine will have to come out. So if you're planning to buy one of these or very similar car, which is at the moment like 10 years old, definitely have some spare money for the maintenance, because anything bigger go wrong, big bill coming. You can service the car from the top pretty much when it comes to the carbon cleaning of the valves. That's sort of easy to do. Replace maybe a few gaskets from the top, but that's about it. Anything else, like the water pump, thermostat, starter motor, yeah, catalytic converters, it is an engine out job. So, you did probably notice I am wearing our new hoodie. And if you're interested to have a V8 natural aspirate hoodie with sort of like a Audi theme, you can go on our website and purchase one. This way you can support our channel. Also, the easiest way, and it's also for free, if you want to support and you like what we're doing, you can hit the subscribe button. This way you will support our YouTube channel. We have some interesting projects, our own cars, what we would like to actually film and show you what we're up to as well, not just these boring timing chain replacements and these Audis, which are the worst cars in the universe. Anyways, if you hate Audis, now is the right time to put a hate comment in below. We also have like a supercharged hoodies for S4 owners, S5 owners, but if you go on the website, you will see what we've got available. I will continue with the job now, and I'm really hoping by end of the day the engine will be up and running. Then we have to go for the MOT, what I mentioned, and a test drive afterwards to double check if everything is running as it should be, with no fault codes, no oil leaks and no coolant leaks. So let's get to it. Once the engine is in, along with the slam panel, it's time to put the oil cooler back on, so I have to replace the O-ring seals. And I must say it was a challenge to actually put the hoses back in place when the engine is on with the slam panel, but we did it on the end. Oil and BG products coming in, and before starting the engine you have to replace the battery for a new genuine Adrian battery encoded into the car. So before the MOT, the car was standing for a while, so I took it to Best Reflection in Dudley to actually clean the car. So thank you to Jack, and here's the car nice and clean. So I'm coming from the MOT the second time. So the first time we did have an issue with the tire, what was actually the fail, and there was a cut from inside, what even I didn't saw when I was putting the wheels back on. So I had to go to A-line and we get one new tire fitted. So Pirelli P0, so they're all the same all the way around. And yeah, second attempt on the MOT was okay, and we finally got the MOT certificate, so I'm able to drive the car. And yeah, the car seems to be fine. There is a small knock coming from the suspension when you're gonna do a full lock left to right. So probably the suspension arms, what's even advisory on the MOT, will need doing soon afterwards. Also the front pads are getting a bit low, and we've advised the discs were a bit rusty from inside because obviously the car was standing for such a long time. So I'm gonna do a bit of a look around now. I want to do some mileage around the garage, so we're just gonna double check everything, we have no leaks and stuff like this, and then we can go for a longer journey to actually test the engine. If everything is fine, we don't have any more fault codes like incorrect coloration or misfires or stuff like that. So the MOT, the first test what we've done, I was more curious about the emissions, because the aftermarket cars what we fit even previously on the S4s, we didn't done the MOT, or I didn't actually saw it how the MOT was done, so I couldn't give you the correct numbers. So the first MOT, the emissions did not pass. Reason why, I drove the car down there, I was waiting to be cold on the ramp because there were some other cars waiting as well. So meanwhile the car get a bit colder, and they done the emission test straight away, and it did failed on the CO. The lambda and everything was fine, it was just the CO2 which was high. So we left the engine running on high RPM, like 2,500 RPM for like a couple of minutes, so everything heated up properly again, and afterwards the emissions were spot on as you see in the footage. So at this point I can tell you the aftermarket catalytic converters do work, and you can even place them more further down. The only thing we have to do before MOT, you gotta get the proper temperature, otherwise they will not work because they're more further down. But other than that, the car seems to be fine, everything is running all right, so I'm more than happy to actually go for a test drive. After the test drive we'll see how it goes. I'm probably gonna contact Adrian, he's from Wales, so we have to arrange like the time and date when he's gonna come down because he's a busy man as well. So that's the update from the MOT, and I'm gonna do a local drive, and then we've got to put some footage from the longer journey what we're actually gonna do, and I'll speak to you then. I'm driving the car now for a couple of miles, and from time to time, not very occasionally, we have a misfire. So I'm going back to the garage now. I have to plug it on the VCDS, see what's the misfire like on one cylinders and what's causing it, and I'll give you an update. Okay guys, so we're gonna finish the video outside the workshop this time. We've done a test drive on the RS5. After the whole job what we actually done, this was the most enjoyable moment from the whole filming and the whole job. So we've done over 100 miles with the vehicle. and obviously we got no issues, fault free. So I will contact Adrian now so he can collect the vehicle hopefully very soon. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. We've got more and more content coming in, so I still have to edit it and stuff. And yeah, like I said, we have the hoodies finally available for you. So if you have a natural aspirate V8 or you have a supercharged V6, just get in contact with us. We can give you the hoodie, send it out. So yeah, beautiful Sunday. Finally we have a bit of a sunshine as well in the UK. Tomorrow it will be raining again. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.